highlight and feature their masterpieces. This was made possible through Managing Director and CEO of Dev's Edge, Devon Greaves. Dev's Edge is an online platform created to showcase the best of our creatives within the Caribbean and Latin America. For this week's episode of Digital Tuesdays, we caught up with Devon Greaves to hear what inspired this venture. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 4 of Digital Tuesdays, where we get a chance to celebrate our Caribbean entrepreneurs. And of course, today is no different. We have a very special guest with us today, and he hails from the beautiful island of Barbados. He is the Managing Director and CEO of Dev's Edge. Now, what exactly is Dev's Edge? Dev's Edge is a website, a platform, of course, that was created to highlight the best of upcoming talent within Barbados, the Caribbean, and yes, Latin America. Definitely would like to say a very warm welcome to Mr. Devon Greaves. Good day. I don't want to put a time to it. How are you, Devon? How is it in Barbados right now?
I am great. Things are really good here. First of all, I just want to say thank you very much for having me as your featured guest on Digital Tuesdays. I'm really pleased. And I must say you're doing a phenomenal job in that you're encouraging persons to tell their stories and, their journeys behind their brands. I think that's a great initiative.
All right. Thank you so much. And just to let everyone know, you guys are the inspiration, the Caribbean entrepreneurs, pretty much. They are the inspiration behind this venture, because we are doing amazing things, within this particular region, but we want to share it with the world. And we have been doing great things within these parts of the world. So my first question to you is just to share with our listeners, we know you're from Barbados, but really what motivated you to take this journey in creating Dev's Edge?
Well, if I had to paint the picture, let's take it all the way back to 2010. I'm 15 years old, now leaving secondary school and going to college. And I'm studying Spanish and Italian for business and tourism. Now, back then, I was very shy, very introverted, still am today. And our department was right next door to that of the creative arts or the theater arts faculty. So as a reserved person, a very perceptive person, I'm looking at these individuals and thinking, wow, they are so different to me. So for example, there's this girl with a huge afro, orange hair, and it's dyed with Kool-Aid. I'm looking at her and saying, wow, she's so different, because never in a million years would I do something like that. I'm not that brave. So I decided to talk to her and have a conversation. And that's when I realized that, she played the trumpet. She was into jazz and funk, and she was so interesting. All of them are these persons in the creative arts.
Right.
And that's what I wanted to do, to tell their stories. We always say that everyone has a story, but these are some truly awe-inspiring stories and journeys that these guys have. So on Dev's Edge, that's what I do. I literally document the journeys of these entrepreneurs and creatives within the creative arts. So in general, Dev's Edge is a website-based platform that takes the form of a blog paired with an entertainment website.
Awesome.
So I go out looking for the best up-and-coming entrepreneurs from Barbados and the region, and I document their stories.
That's really good. It's funny. I've never, from my experience here in Jamaica, the creative arts, we see their work. If there's a piece that is to be commissioned, that's where private sector organizations will go, or sometimes the government. But I've never really experienced where someone has taken the initiative to say, okay, but what's your story behind you telling a story behind a piece? You know what I mean? And the fact that you're putting this, you've put this platform together, and you're actually having a space for that. How important is it for us to claim as well as to share our authenticity as Caribbean people?
Okay, let's look at it this way. As Caribbean people, we know who we are, or we have a good idea of where we come from, what we do, what make us us, Mm-hmm. The other part of it now is to claim who we are. So for example, I'm going to give you 2 examples. I'm not sure if you know the song that goes la da 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 da.
I'm trying to pick up what song is that.
People may know it as the lambada, which is originally from Brazil.
Right.
Really and truly, what we know that to be today is not the original version. So what we know is the version from 1989, mm-hmm. which basically the plagiarized version, Mm-hmm. But then the original piece was from 1976, which has to deal with the musician Pinduka and Carimbo, which was a dance and what's not. So I'm saying that to say that persons can literally market us in a way that we don't even appreciate. And the other example, to show you a more modern day example, is that as we speak, it's literally happening right now. There's a huge controversy going on, or cultural appropriation, between Michael B. Jordan, who's from Black Panther, because he wants to create a rum which is called Juve. Now, to us Caribbean people, we know Juve as the start of our carnival,
Right.
It's something very dear to us. It's who we are. But he now wants to take that and market it as something that's completely different.
Yeah. And he doesn't necessarily have a connection to what that really means for us as Caribbean people.
Right. So this is what I mean when I say we know who we are, but it's our job to claim it, patent it, and market it in the way that we want it to be seen as, not someone else, changing it up and making it something that's not us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that definitely is important as we navigate as well through this digital space. Sure. More and more individuals are taking to this platform to really push their originality and authenticity as it relates to them as a people. But I want to know more about your team. Okay. And teamwork makes the dream work. And I saw on your website where you had some ambassadors. What was that like for you? Because as an entrepreneur, you really have to find like-minded people who share that passion, who really have a sort of a kindred spirit to say, okay, we are going to go along with you on this journey. Talk to me about that process.
I think it's so important to have a diverse team. For example, I would say that I'm the tech savvy individual. However, I have two ambassadors that help me out with Dev's Edge. I literally call them my advisory council. So there's Bianca Arthur. She's currently in France at the moment. She is really into fashion and street art, networking. She has great networking skills. She knows how to maneuver and negotiate social spaces. That's not me. I'm very introverted. So it's good to have someone who can play that role. So, for example, I would easily take her to a fashion show or a fashion event. However, on the other hand, there's Alejandro Gomez, who's from Manizales, which is Caldas, Colombia. He is the complete opposite.
Right.
He is early, he's political, he's anthropological. So would I take him to a fashion show? No. However, I would take him to a museum and he can point to me all of the different artistic eras. You know, he could say, Devon, this piece is from the Baroque period. So it is good to have this diversity on your team, especially when you know you can't do it all yourself. As you said, teamwork makes the dream work.
Yeah, and just to segue a bit, because at this time where inclusion and representation and diversity is so important, because that when growing up, I didn't hear all those words. You know, you were pretty much either this or you're that. And because I lived outside of Jamaica, a lot of people, you know, put labels on you. Because I remember when I was living in Canada, I'd have to fill out the form. I was like, ethnicity? Seriously? You know? Do they have a box there that says I'm human? You know, it's really important that you're able to have persons that represent that kind of diversity, because the technology space is diverse. Was that sort of your thinking when you recruited them?
Well, yes and no.
Okay.
Yes, because that was actually the case, and no, because I met them prior, just on. Well, Bianca was really my good friend to start with, and she knows me. She knows what I like. So, for example, she would say, Devon, there's a guy doing such and such. He's a really good entrepreneur. He likes this, he likes that. I think you would like him. Check him out. And then Ale, he's quite similar, but like I said, very political and what's not. So from the get-go, knowing their skills and their attributes,
right,
you utilize them.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So what can you tell us about yourself? Like, what have you learned about yourself on this entrepreneurial journey? Because I know for me, I'm learning lessons every single day, and some of them surprise me, and some of them are like, boy, Cam, you really need to really fix this. Like, what was the big revelation for you when you started this journey as an entrepreneur?
Well, being an entrepreneur in this field for me, it definitely is a way for me to use all of my attributes and skills. So for example, website building. If there's a technical issue with the site, I have to be the one who's on it to fix it. Content creation, writing, marketing myself, marketing the people I write about, even being the face of the brand, like what I'm doing now, and doing podcasts and being social. It allows you to utilize all of these skills, and skills that you probably thought that you didn't have to begin with.
Right.
Because that's the case for me. I'm like, I can do anything now, even like accounting, you know, bookkeeping. You have to do everything. And when I first started Dev's Edge as a journey, I was clueless. I didn't know anything about SEO. I didn't know anything about websites. I wasn't, at heart, I'm just a surfer, island kid at heart. So to get into business and to understand how it works, it was almost like a paradigm shift for me.
Wow, that is true. You're carrying the actual weight until you get those other soldiers to be with you.
Yes.
On the actual field to get a chance to execute the vision. So that is definitely some gems that you said there. When you start entrepreneurship, you're clueless, you're fearful at first, but then you're learning as you go along. But just a question: how do you handle failure, or have you ever failed at anything? I should ask.
Keon, recently I've been asking myself, should I really continue with Dev's Edge? Like, you have so many doubts. And I often refer to myself as a one-man army. Even though I have my brand ambassadors, I still do a lot of the work on my own. So when I have personal issues in my life, it affects the brand, emotions, self-doubt, whether I should continue. How can I balance my personal life, because I teach at secondary school in Barbados. So there's that, and managing Dev's Edge as well. How can I keep everything under control? And on that note, I recently created a series called the 7 with 7 series. It's where I'm taking 7 of the best entrepreneurs from Barbados, from different fields, music, art, fashion, and I'm using them to show the public that, nobody just reaches success overnight. It's a long process. Everybody has their issues. They have to make sacrifices. So I'm using them as examples because these are persons that people look up to in Barbados. So when they can tell their story and be vulnerable from that end, then persons can see, well, it's not just me. It's not just me who's going through this challenge with my business. Everybody goes through that stage of self-doubt and worrying, finances, you name it. Everyone has it hard to start with.
All right, that's true. Because everything, the last podcast that I did, it really, the guest, she's from Saint Martin, and
Okay.
Entrepreneurship tests you.
Yes.
It reveals who you are. It's your highest self pretty much being exposed.
Definitely.
So how do you navigate through all these things that are coming at you all at once, and you still have to maintain that level of professionalism and to let people know what you're about? Do you allow yourself to be vulnerable as an entrepreneur? Do you think it's automatic that you have to?
One of the same persons from the series said, Dev, you know what? Feel the feels. Every emotion, feel it, embrace it. Don't try to run from it because it's going to come back up at some point, So deal with it, go through it, feel the emotions, and then after a while, you just get better.
Awesome.
So,
yeah, that's really, let's really talk right there. Feel the feels. Okay. So for our listeners, right now, I want to pick your brain a bit because I did read your bio, and you're bilingual or multilingual.
I would say multilingual.
Right.
there's English, there's Spanish, there's Italian, which I'm super rusty at right now. And
Okay.
there's a little bit of French.
A little bit of French. All right. So I'm going to definitely ask you this question. Like, why do you think learning languages is an important skill to have as a Caribbean native? Like, I'm learning French now, but please don't ask me to start speaking. I write it very well. Yeah, I can write it very well, but I'm learning how to speak it more. But yeah, why do you think having a second language is such an important skill as Caribbean natives?
Well, for anyone, I would say languages are the gateway into understanding others and other cultures. And like I said earlier, I'm really perceptive. So I understand that not everyone views the world the same way. Not everyone sees the world how we see it, you know? So we may think in English, but knowing another language literally gives you that path into understanding how other persons think, their traditions, their cultures, because the language comes along with it. And if you know the language, then you can explore another world that's completely different to your English, you know, or how you know the world to be.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so could you just say a few words to our Spanish speaking? Well, Cuba is pretty much nearest to us. So could you just say hi to our listeners that will be listening to our podcast in Spanish, and also to our French speaking islanders as well, who...
I wouldn't attempt it in French.
Oh, okay. Just bonsoir or bonsoir.
Pues
Your
vamos
name.
a hablar con español.
Okay.
En los países que habla español, soy el señor Devon de Dev's Edge y quiero darles las gracias por escuchar hoy a Digital Tuesdays. Muchas gracias.
Should I say magnifique? Thank you so much, Devon. It was really a pleasure speaking with you on today's episode of Digital Tuesdays. Before we go, though, I just want for you to share with our listeners, where can we find you, social media handles. Of course, I'll be dropping all that information in the description box. So could you just go ahead and just share with our listeners?
Okay, so to start with, the website or platform is www.devsedge.com. The Instagram is devsedge, and devsedge is DEVSEDGE. There's also Facebook at devsedge.
Thank you so much. It was really a pleasure catching up with you. And I'm really looking forward to that upcoming project that you shared with us for this week's podcast. And for our listeners, remember to like and subscribe, as well as to share the podcast with fellow entrepreneurs. You can follow at Hikaya Media, JA, just to keep up with what is happening with all our entrepreneurs from the various islands. This has been Digital Tuesdays. Until next time, I am Kayan Vaz.